Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Charmed. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, the group is still looking for Macy, and they're kind of running out of leads. The last demon they went after ended up, being them saving a witch, which apparently, I guess, some demons have gotten an appetite for witches, which is interesting, because he was literally marinating her. Probably not marinating her, but obviously had her in liquid just to get her ready to be cooked and eaten. I was like, that's interesting to know that there's at least some demons out there who've, acquired that taste, so that's interesting. But now what I like is that this episode kind of splits up, Maggie and Mel trying to go about things their own way. And then interestingly enough, Harry and Abigail on their own. So let's start off with Mel and Maggie. What I really liked about it is, obviously there's the whole thing of, I thought it was I liked it being an interesting storyline of technically both of them not really knowing Macy as well as because they know Macy good enough, but basically they were able to get two of the ingredients, and then it's the third ingredient they couldn't agree on. It's what does she desire most? It's her deepest desire is family, is what Maggie says, and Mel says it's her career, because Maggie's I'm the empath, so I kind of got this figured out, but then Mel is no, it's her career, because obviously that was so important, saying that basically she already dealt with everything related to family and mom, but Maggie's the fact of the matter is there's no just getting over that overnight. That was something she dealt with for years. It's going to probably take years to kind of, properly deal with that, but one by one, they try each of their respective situations of they start with Maggie's of okay, let's start with family, and ends up summoning up a demon doll. My mind immediately goes, is that supposed to be a hellhound? It just makes me immediately think of a hellhound. And I like it brings up the whole conversation about Mel, it's I should have listened to my, instincts about the whole situation. It's me and Macy are on a different wavelength than you or whatever. And Maggie's what the hell is that supposed to mean? It's well, the fact of the matter is you get so distracted by boys. It's look at the whole Parker situation. I mean, it's well, yeah, Parker Parker was nice. And it's yeah, and he tried to steal your powers. She's and he was sorry about it. Why you gotta stop being so judgy? I love that. But, when it comes down to it, they try the next one, but the spell doesn't work yet again, and the dog comes back even bigger, so they have to deal with the monster dog. Now there's the whole thing of okay, let's search for Macy's journal, which I'm sure when she finds out, wait, you read my journal? I'm sure she's not going to appreciate that. I figured that might become a thing later on. But what I liked is the fact is they were trying to figure out what the third piece is. My mind immediately was it's something related to Harry, because that's something they don't know about, but we as the audience know. She's kind of got a thing for Harry, but we'll kind of circle to that in a second. But what was really interesting is the whole Cat subplot, because obviously Cat had brought it up to Mel, being have you experienced any of that weird worm stuff? Which is, I guess in Mel's mind, it's oh, Cat remembers what was there. But to be fair, it wasn't just on the astral plane. That was all BS anyway, just kind of a test by the Sentinel. So it wasn't even real. So how could Cat experience something that wasn't real? At least the astral plane stuff was real in a sense. But I guess, get existential and all that, what is real in the grand scheme of things. But I was wondering about that. So I think Mel might have interpreted that wrong, of not realizing oh, she literally saw worms outside of the astral plane situation. But it's okay, what's up there? And then, it led to an interesting conversation between, Mel and Maggie, too, because Maggie's you said no dating and stuff like that. She's I swear I haven't, taken that step with Kat or anything like that, because it was a whole promise of putting relationships to the side, because they all have, because this life they lead doesn't really leave room open for an actual relationship. I think that's why, even though it seems like Maggie might like Jordan, well, to be fair, he has a girlfriend, but obviously that puts a kibosh on any of that. But at the same time, I think it's also the thing of what's actually kind of sad and interesting when you actually think about, because Parker and Lucy were dating, and then Maggie and Parker, so it's kind of sad in this situation to kind of think maybe history might be repeating that type of situation. We'll see. Maybe Jordan and his current girlfriend will end up breaking up, but then there's a complicated thing of I don't want to bring you into my world, but it's because out of anyone, and kind of reflective of Phoebe from the original show, is you kind of need love in your life, because the fact of the matter is, because of this world, you kind of put your life on hold and you kind of let love slide by, which I think for Maggie, that's going to hit even harder, because she's an empath, it's feeling everyone else's feelings. And obviously last season, she kind of dealt with trying to bury her feelings, and that didn't work out well. So, kind of putting love aside might not, it's going to be a hard thing for all of them, but I think in a way you could probably say like it's going to hit Maggie the most because once again, it's a phrase I've been using so much lately, but she's the one who legitimately wears her heart on her sleeve. Obviously Mel kind of keeps hers a little buried because it's, after the whole Nico situation, the Jada situation, but also just kind of like she wants to focus on what they got to do now. So she's probably like, I kind of have to bury my feelings, my desires, which obviously that's reflective in Macy as well. But we'll get to that, soon enough. But Mel does admit, like, yeah, I kissed her, Kat, but that was in astral plane, so it wasn't technically. Which Maggie's like, the fact is you didn't actually break the rule, but she's like, I wanted to. Which even Maggie's like, the fact is it's okay. Like I look at posts from Parker, it's okay to have these desires, and that's what led them to the journal, which Kat ends up having this moment throughout the episode where she's talking to someone invisible. The entire episode I'm thinking, is that the Sentinel reaching out to her? Because someone had suggested, like, and I thought, like I said, I'm not taking credit for this theory at all. It was someone else had put up, I thought was kind of interesting, was maybe the Sentinel is going to use Kat as a means to kind of force Mel into helping get him out, which obviously even transcribing the book is kind of taking its time, but maybe that's the lane they're going down, but it might not be with the way things kind of play out, because it might just end up being a situation of there just might be consequences of using humans in a grand scheme of magic. So we'll get to that in a second, but it turns out Kat was trying to get in contact with Mel, and someone's talking to her. I was like, oh, is she trying to set Mel up in a trap or something? Like, what's up? And it turns out her mom reached out to Kat and was like, okay, your mom's basically says this is where the journal's at, and it's in between sheets. And they're like, wait, how did she know about mom? And it's like, even Mel's like, I don't know, I've never mentioned mom to her. They haven't even gotten that close to like talk about stuff like that. So I thought that was fascinating. So the question is, has Kat, because Kat is kind of tied to this witch world, so maybe she is a witch and she doesn't know it, so she does actually have like a clairvoyant, am I confusing that? I think I'm using the right word, clairvoyant ability, or maybe she's just kind of magically tuned, so she's not full witch, but she's kind of tuned to the frequency of the supernatural world a little bit. Or maybe that whole astral plane thing shifted something. Maybe it awakened something that was already there, or maybe it lighting a spark inside of her, kind of witchiness maybe, or maybe it implanted something there that kind of grew into this, or maybe just her being the bridge to Harry and Mel, being the anchor to them going to the astral world. They brought something back with them when they came back, and it kind of stuck with Kat. Maybe not. We're going to have to dive into that, because later on when we see like Kat's she kind of shuts down her business for a little bit. So it's like, oh, we got some questions, but that's all going to have to ultimately wait. But what I like too is when they found out like, oh, Macy's secret desire is Harry. But then, it clicks in Maggie's head of like, it's not three separate things. It's all one thing. Harry is, the thing that she denies, dreads, and desires. Because it's a whole combination of like, I think for her feeling weird, she wants to deny herself like, no, that can't be real. But I don't. It can't be like I like Harry, but then like there's a desire of liking Harry. But I think it's also the dread of like how it might affect their relationship, of just kind of like how it might affect them as charmed ones, and him being the white lighter and everything. So, and I also like the fact is like when it was all said and done, the dog reverts back to its first form, and they're like, oh, cute puppy and everything. And I thought it was kind of a little creepy, like the fact is its eyes glow and it shoots out literally coordinates like a projector. So there's that side of things. And then tying this all into Harry's side of the story, where him and Abigail are working together, she's helping him dive into his subconscious, which obviously, and I liked her basically being like, the memories are there, they're just like very buried deeply. I like the example she gave. It's like, oh, just because you clear your hard drive of porn doesn't mean it's completely gone. Meaning that the stuff is still there on some level. You just probably have to retrieve it, So she's going inside of his subconscious. We meet his grandmother Willa. We see his dad. We see some cute moments like his first kiss and stuff like that. But then we start trailing into some dark stuff, like finding out that Harry cheated on his wife even has a whole other family, and it's like, whoa. Which we dealt with the fact is of like, obviously last season we saw his son, but now I think it's because for Harry, because the moment, once again using the Kingdom Hearts example, once Vanitas and Ventus separated, like all that dark stuff went with them, and obviously like a lot of your, like, I guess a lot of the stuff that you're not willing to face subconsciously you buried, because I mean, I guess because it's like, it's hard to handle because it's like your darker inhibitions, your darker self all went into that. Like I said, Harry is all the good that, you know, it's like any humans are, I guess humans are typically on a 50-50 split, which even this is kind of making me think of Preacher to an extent, because that's how Genesis worked. Genesis represented the light, an angel. It represented the darkness, a demon. And the fact is, a human needed to have the right proportions to match Genesis at a like certain percentage that allowed for Genesis to stay in a host, like a host to be acceptable. Regardless, once again, I'm going on a tangent and stuff like that, but I like that aspect so much because I think that's such a dope thing, because I don't think that was a thing in the original. Like I said, it wasn't until afterwards that I remember, like, right, Darklighters were a thing in the original, but I don't remember because it's been so long. But I'm pretty sure it's not the same thing. Once again, I can't help it. I like that this show takes stuff from the original and it's like, yo, let's remix it and kind of make it our own and do our own thing. And I think that's such a cool concept of like though, and that shows you kind of how far the elders were willing to go. That the fact of the matter is to make these warriors for whatever reason, and why you would experiment like that. Like, why would you go through that? I guess because it's like, we need someone pure of heart and light, so we need to scrub them of all the darkness, And so I guess that was why, because you don't want to take the chances that someone you hire is even tempted by any darkness at all. You want someone that's loyal and willing to go. I mean, well, to be fair, which is interesting when you think about the grand scheme of things, because then you had someone like Charity still dip over into the dark side, killing Mel Macy and Maggie's mom, and doing a lot to cover it up, so it's kind of like, even with all the darkness removed, I guess maybe some had I don't know, I guess even showing you that even in time, light can be warped into darkness, I guess is kind of what that might be saying. But regardless of all of it, I mean, there might be a deeper thing when you actually think about it in the grand scheme of things. The argument could be like, maybe she became more in tune with her darkness in the sense that like a lot of her memories were. I don't know. That's something we'll probably never really get an answer to. But it's interesting to kind of think about in the grand scheme of things. But that is also something else too. Like, that means he has another family out there, another generation of families. Like I said, he found his son who's a grandfather now. Like, maybe he has another son or daughter out there who's also a grandfather. She said family and not just other woman, because it's like his wife was like, I knew you were going to, like, you had other people on this. I didn't care. Like, I just accepted that. But the fact of the matter is, you had another family, so meaning he has other kids, which is like, well, even hard for Harry. He's like, wait, I'm capable of something like that. So I just thought that was kind of fascinating. And we did kind of learn a little bit more about Abigail, in a sense. It seems like she is kind of a bit manipulative, like in the sense that she kind of enjoys it. She even kind of refers to this all being a bit of a game. But it is interesting that she is there to kind of help guide Harry. But for her, it's like, well, it kind of works out in a sense because I need to track down this guy because he killed my two favorite playthings or whatever. So she has her reasonings for helping out. But it does show, the fact is that she was someone that wasn't wanted because of who she was. Because you're half witch, half demon. She said when she was 13, she went to Alistair to kind of be like, oh, thought he'd be excited. But obviously having a half-breed daughter like me wasn't something he was interested in. Obviously the only reason why he was interested in Parker is because Parker was the means to bringing back the source, like because of the prophecy and everything, which is crazy to think about, because I'm sure for Abigail it's probably like, no, I could have been that other thing. I could have been the one, but you didn't want me. You chose Parker because you thought, oh, because he's your son and he's your boy, like, he was more important to me. It's kind of sad in the grand scheme of things. But circling back to the Harry thing, I just think that whole situation is interesting. Especially when they end up going to Scotland and it's like, oh, this very heavily guarded place. It seems like most of the people that are there are dead. I forgot what Abigail called them, but basically they're assassins that basically even their touch is poisonous. She knows because her dad sent those same assassins after her when, it's kind of like, oh, get rid of kind of, I guess, this quote-unquote abomination. So there's that. But then, like, Harry remembers everything, them kind of separating. And it's so interesting because it brings up the question of like something I had before of like, oh, we never saw dark lighters until Harry, so that must mean the way they operate that every white lighter has a dark light. But we found out because they are connected, because and it's something I brought up before as a thought of like other dark lighters might be dead because they are the other half of these white lighters. The white lighters are born from the elders, so the moment they died, so did all the white lighters died, so did all the dark lighters, except for Harry's, because he was untethered to the elders at the time. So hence why his his dark lighter is still alive. But the fact of the matter is, and I was even wondering that, because especially when you looked, it's like the bottle that it was kept, or rather the jar he was kept in, was still intact. So it's like, okay. Because, and I like their explanation to it too. Once again, kind of feed it into why we never saw any dark lighters at all, didn't really know they exist, because this was the elders' top kept secret. Because the person, Helen, was their first case, and they saw what would happen if we made the darkness corporeal into a body. It led to her crazy darker half having a physical form. So that's why they kept them in jars like that, which is interesting to kind of think about in the grand scheme of things. So like I said, that's your way of kind of skirting around the reason why we never saw them, because they've all been locked up except for Harry's. But it's like someone let him out. But that begs the question, it had to be someone who's old enough to know, like, because that's an elder kept secret. Like, they wouldn't even let white lighters know. There's no way they'd let anyone else know. So that begs the question, who could have been the one who did it? Because whoever it was must have known about Helen. Because how would you know to go there otherwise? I mean, not like I said, not unless this is someone ancient and powerful who knew about that. But it's like, my mind immediately thinks about it later on, because Abigail, I think it might be her. Like I said, I'm not sure if she's set up to be like the overlord, because definitely Abigail's got a lot of secrets, and I'm curious because Harry's like, oh, someone must have said. I think it might have been Abigail, and Abigail might have been trying to use this as an opportunity to try to understand the Dark Lighter. Maybe she doesn't have full control over him, because the Dark Lighter isn't working all alone. Like, he has other people kind of pointing him in a certain direction. It could be, I mean, you never know. The thing could be that maybe Abigail's trying to rule both worlds. Maybe she's trying to destroy both witches and humans. I mean, witches and demons, all who spurned her. She was never accepted by either. So it's kind of like, I will be the one as powerful as I am. I'll gain all this power and I'll wipe out you either serve me, like all, I mean, I think at the end of the day, her thing is going to be about ruling over everyone. Like, they look down upon me because I'm half witch, half demon, but I'm going to be the one that rules over all of you. I wonder just how far, like I said, if it ends up being the case that she is the one that's taking control of Dark Harry. And I thought that was kind of, potentially fascinating if that ends up being the case. But, like, who else? Like I said, like, they would have to know about Helen, too. I feel like, because Helen would be the first key to figuring out, like, oh, the Dark Lighters and stuff like that, about that whole situation. So, like I said, it's such a well-kept secret. How did you find out? Maybe we'll find out soon enough. But kind of tying everything together, Abigail kind of gets in Harry's head one last time, and he finds out the mysterious woman he was seeing was Macy. And then in that moment, it's like, because Harry and his Dark Lighter are connected, he remembers a memory of that dream that was like of Macy. And it's like, wait, this isn't her talking to me. This is her talking to him. And he kind of pieces it together. And he comes back to Mel and Maggie, and he's like, she's not in danger for right now because he cares for her. And how do I know? Because we're the same person. I care for her too. And so the question then becomes, I mean, that's the thing. Did he go, like, it seems like he's all in when it comes to the Macy situation. But is that him, because at first I was wondering, is he trying to find a queen or something like that? But it's like, the reason why he's probably spending so much time with Macy is because it's based on Harry's actual desires, because of how Harry feels. The Dark Harry feels that way as well. But because I was wondering, because I was like, the fact is we have two witches who are half witch, half demon, and the fact of the matter is now we have Abigail making it seem like she was a target as well. But the fact is you just happen to get away with just a wound and everything makes me think that he's, like I said, searching for a queen. I don't know. Which also begs the question, that must mean that all those rare creatures, like the queen bees, I mean, like I said, this could fill into that void of like what Abigail is up to. Maybe she was trying to like gather up all the, like I said, it might not be the case. This might be like part of some, like I threw out last time, it must be part of some grand spell. I have no idea. Like, I'm so interested to see where this all ends up ultimately taking us with all of this, because that's going. I think on the next episode we're going to see Macy's side of things, because I think she's not in danger because he's treating her well, and and I think it's because there's a part of her, because she does desire him a little bit, that he, like, the darkness in her is kind of leaning into the darkness of him, because it's so interesting, because obviously the witch side, it kind of represents, like, the white lighter Harry, and then, like, Macy's demon side with the dark side, which is going to be interesting, because I think the ultimate goal is going to be bringing both halves together, and I think that's going to be an interesting thing, especially between him and Macy, because Macy definitely like her light and dark side is a little more literal than everyone, and same thing for Harry in this particular case. So I'm sure that's going to play an interesting role later on, but we'll have to wait and see, especially because Abigail managed to disappear, and what that's all about. Once again, got to circle back to this Kate storyline too. There is a lot that it's going to be interesting to see where it all ends up taking us, But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till next time, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.